What's up guys, I'm BTC. Pharah just got some buffs on the PTR, but it might not matter. A wave of indirect nerfs might bring her crashing down. Over the last few days, I've spent a decent amount of time on the PTR, mostly testing out the Torbjorn rework stuff. But in almost every single game, there's at least a couple of Pharah players, and that's because Pharah did get some pretty significant changes. Here they are on screen right now. Whether or not these should be considered a buff or a nerf kind of depends on where you are. If you're on console, regardless of what your rank is, these are pretty much a nerf. If you're on PC, however, if you're in the upper bracket, then these changes are going to be a buff. For players in the lower bracket, it's most likely going to be a nerf. The reason for this is because the damage types have been flipped. So now impact damage does more and explosive damage does less. So if you can hit the enemy consistently with a direct hit, then you're still going to be doing just as much damage as you were before, hence the higher skill upper bracket players. But if you're often missing the target and only getting them with the splash damage, then you're going to see a damage reduction. This is also the same issue that happened on console. Most of the problems from Pharah came from that AoE splash damage and not the direct hits. So why is this a buff for those upper bracket players on PC? Because the direct hits are not an issue for them, but in addition to that, the attack speed was increased, allowing them to hit their targets more often, and they also gained extra mobility from the lowered cooldown on the concussive blast, and also the self-knockback range was increased by 25%. So the higher skill Pharah players who can consistently hit their targets are going to be doing more damage and more evasive than ever before. But none of that might matter at all because of all the indirect nerfs that Pharah has recently got. Let's go through them. First, you had to change to the fall-off damage. Soldier 76, McCree, and Bastion used to have a 70% damage penalty at long range. Now that's been reduced to 50%, so they're doing way more damage at long range, making it all that much easier to take the Pharah out of the sky. In addition, Mei, who isn't exactly a super counter to Pharah or anything, also had her fall-off damage completely removed for her right-click, so in the event she wants to attack the Pharah, it's now way easier for her as well. Next is the combo piece of the Pharah Mercy Pharmacy combo, and that would be Mercy got nerf after nerf after nerf after nerf. The most recent one was when her healing was changed from 60 healing per second down to 50. So that combo is now significantly weaker than it was before, simply because Mercy has been nerfed so many times. On the latest PTR, Soldier and McCree got yet more buffs. Soldier can now attack a lot more before his spread starts messing up, and McCree can use his roll a lot more to get way more ammo and continue the attack. Not to mention that Torbjorn is now way stronger than he ever has been before. And the difference is that the turret used to be in a kind of fixed location. It was easy for the Pharah to know where it was and to attack it or to evade it. But now Torbjorn can just throw out a level 2 turret pretty much wherever he wants, and by the time the Pharah even knows it's there, she's already lost probably half her health. It makes it extremely difficult for the Pharah to stay in the sky when there's a Torbjorn on the enemy team. The end result of all of these indirect nerfs is stuff that supports Pharah has gotten a lot weaker, and stuff that is a counter, whether it's a hard counter or a soft counter, has gotten a lot better. Now, in case you didn't know, Blizzard has the ability to balance the heroes on PC and console completely separate. In fact, they had to do this quite a while ago when, on the console, Torbjorn was being way too strong, and they were having difficulties balancing it for PC and console, so what they did was they just split up the patches, and they had separate ones. Now, they haven't really used that and done a whole lot with it since then. It's actually been over a year, I believe. But I think they might have to address that once more, particularly with Pharah, because on the PC, it's a lot easier for the hit scan players in order to deal with the Pharah and knock her out of the sky, whereas on console, it was a much bigger issue. However, I think once the Torb rework goes live, I really think that most of the Pharah issues would have been resolved anyways because of how good that new turret is. Again, as I mentioned, the turret doesn't have to be in any fixed location anymore. Instead, Torbjorn can just throw it out, and by the time the Pharah even knows it's there, again, she's already at half health. That alone may have solved much of the Pharah console issues, but moving back to PC, Pharah simply has not been used in any significant capacity for a very long time. You'd have to go all the way back to Season 1 and 2 in order to actually find significant amounts of Pharah use. Even after Mercy got her rework and she had those 4 instant reses and was super unbelievably powerful, Pharah simply wasn't being used because the dive comp was the go-to thing. I just don't see Pharah coming back on PC, even in the upper bracket where those higher skilled players should be more effective with her. There just isn't a good place to put a Pharah in any of the existing viable comps that we see, whether it's dive, whether it's goats, or the disrupt, whatever it happens to be. There's just no room for Pharah, and with her counters getting stronger, it's going to make it even more difficult. I think what Blizzard needs to do, balance the characters separately from PC and console, and I think the PC players for Pharah need to get a little bit better of a mobility adjustment. This is what I mentioned before when they were first mentioning they were going to change the character. I said she needs more mobility in the air. Not something to the same degree as Mercy using her Valkyrie where she can just fly around, zip all over the place. That would be way too strong. But I think the Pharah player does need more control while just kind of hovering there. Maybe even giving a little bit more of the thrusters so that she can stay in the air longer, and better speed and control. I think just giving that player the ability to move around and have better control will make the character at least somewhat viable. Another option would be to replace some of the white health with either shield or armor. I think armor would probably be the better way to go. I'm not saying bump her health up from 200 to 250. Instead, I would change it so it's 150 white and then 50 armor. So that way she has at least a little bit of resistance to those incoming attacks. And it kind of matches with the character design as well because she's literally wearing rocket armor. So, I mean, it kind of goes with it. So that sums up my general concerns about the direction that Pharah is heading. What do you guys think? Should they just try to balance the character differently on PC than from console? Because clearly there's some issues that don't affect both, so why try to balance it the same for both? What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault.